It's Talk Erie and the Joel Natale Show. We are live from our Kingdom Financial Group studio here at 5th and State, also live on Facebook and on YouTube. It's another one of our Celebrate What's Different, and it's we're celebrating conversations with the Barber National Institute here in August. Back to school your way. You know, you think about growing up, or you think about your kids or your grandkids and how they get excited or nervous about going back for that first day of school. And you can think about how important or how emotional and how much emotional weight there could be on the first day of school for kids with autism or anxiety or other support needs. And so while some kids can't wait for that first bell, others need some preparation, some patience, and a plan to walk through the school doors to be safe and seen. So that's what we're going to talk about today. We've got Barber National Institute's Vice President, Dr. Maureen Barber Carey, and one of their key behavioral specialists, Maria Brown, to tell us through their expertise and tips and tricks on that first day back to school with confidence. Welcome, ladies. Appreciate you being on the air with us here.
Thank you, and we really enjoy always coming on your show. Thank you.
That's fantastic. All right, so let's talk about this Netflix segment here. It's called The Healing Powers of Dude. What's this about? This is a little boy named Noah, right?
It's about a little boy with Noah who has social anxiety challenges, and he is able to take a special dog with him to school that helps him quiet his anxiety disorders. And although most children do not go to school with a helper, Noah was able to, but I think because most children don't, we as parents really need to think about how do we prepare our child for the first day of school.
And again, it could be just a little nervousness, or it could be full out anxiety or other support needs that are needed, right?
Very definitely. I think that what you find is most typical children are nervous the first day of school. Right. They're excited, but they're also nervous. However, when we start talking about children with disabilities, I think there's a heightened anxiety that occurs, whether it's a new school, a new teacher, or being in a new city. Children are anxious.
It would seem that if you can make things regular, if you could have routine, that's kind of like the first line of being able to bring that anxiety level down, right, Doctor?
Very definitely.
Yeah.
Routine and structure is the key.
Okay.
And we know that most children do not have routine and structure during the summer. So we need to introduce routine and structure into their last couple of weeks before school. So they're going to be prepared then for the routine and the structure of school.
Talk about the onus on the adults in that child's life and how they can kind of tune in instead of maybe sloughing it off of saying, this is just, first day jitters or whatever.
No, I think mom and dad really have to be aware that most children are anxious for the first day of school. Yeah. And if they have a child who has some special needs, he's probably going to be a bit more anxious. So before school starts, and I would say 2-3 weeks prior to school, let's start thinking about how do we prepare our child so that he can go to school without that high level of anxiety.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. When you talk about having anxiety or even neurodiversity, you could still be successful within those contexts, right?
Oh, very definitely. Many children have anxiety. Many children are neurodiverse, but every child is successful. So we as parents simply need to think about what are the small steps that we need to take to prepare our child for going to school.
It feels like we need to know what the goalposts are and not keep changing them, right?
Very true. And how we find that out, I think, is by contacting the principal or the administrator at school, introducing yourself as mom or dad of John Brown, and then set up an appointment for your child and for you to go to school to talk to the principal about what are those guideposts that you need to know, that your child needs to know in going to school.
You think about, what is your child's dude? What helps them feel safe? So maybe it's a toy maybe that they stuff in their backpack. What are some of the other
Sure,
things?
it might be that, but it may be simply routine.
Yeah, okay.
So that when I go to school that first day, I know that at 8:30 I'm going to walk in the door. I'm going to go to my homeroom. From homeroom, I go to this next room. And one of the things I did over the years was I was able to take pictures of the faculty. And I had an album of those pictures that I would show my son, and I would say, this is going to be your math teacher, this is your English teacher, this is Mr., this is Miss. So he was prepared. When he saw that person, it wasn't a stranger, it was someone he sort of knew a little bit about. And that really took care of much of the anxiety that he was feeling, but that I was too as a parent.
Absolutely. Kids thrive with preparation and routine. Let's talk about how we build those routines here and the power of routine. Let's get to some concrete tips here, especially for routines being so critical for children with autism, anxiety, other behavioral health challenges. And so you mentioned like doing a preview of that school day.
A preview of the school day. Taking your child in, talking with the principal, perhaps a teacher, and or if there's a team of persons that work with your child, have an opportunity for your child to meet them. There's also some really basic kinds of things that we as parents can do. One is during the summer, very often there is no specific bedtime routine.
Oh, okay.
However, if you're going to have to be up at 6:30 to get to school, let's not sleep in every day prior to the first day of school and have to get up at 6:30. So establish a routine of when you're going to be getting up. And if your child got up at 8:30 every morning, make it 8:15, make it 8 a.m. so that you gradually get them into that cycle of getting up at 8:30. I think going to bed and getting up in the morning can be a real hurdle for many children and many parents as well.
When I was growing up, we had the same breakfast every morning. Is that the same thing these days? Or kids like a lot of variety, even just having the same bowl of cereal ready to go at the right time,
Sure. If the child has that kind of structure, then continue that structure as he goes to school. Yeah. But many children don't.
Yeah. What about school clothes? Because again, sometimes it's in the summer or right before back to school is when you get the new wardrobe or whatever. I would think that trying that stuff on, making sure it feels good and you know what to expect. Maybe if you have a uniform, that's a big deal, right?
Yes, it is a big deal because many children with autism and other disabilities are sensitive to certain materials. So if you bought your child a sweatshirt and he doesn't like wearing round necks, he's not going to be very happy when you say, here's your clothes for the first day of school. You're probably going to end up having a tantrum because he's going to refuse to put on the clothes. You, of course, want him to wear the clothes because you bought all these new clothes. So, avoid those issues by, if you're purchasing new clothes for your child, try them on before the first day.
What about the calendars? What's on the wall, or talk about your whiteboard or your even chalkboard or corkboard.
Whatever you have, whether it's a computer or a calendar. I always start at the 1st of August and counted the days to school started, and then have your child exit them off or whatever preference he has. So then every day you can say, 20 days to school, 19, 18, 17. So there are no surprises. That's a good one. Easy to do again, but it prepares your child for school.
Yeah, put that sticker on the calendar there. Along with implementing some of these great structures, it's also important to consider like how we're going to approach our child emotionally, getting them ready for school. Let's bring in Maria Brown here. She is a mental health coordinator. Maria, let's talk about what to say and how to say it, and how can you employ some strategies, in talking to your kids about school, right?
Sure. So just talk about the things that they're going to look forward to. Like we know that they enjoy math, so really talking about the things in math that they're going to be able to approach, things that they like about school, that they're familiar with, that bring the unfamiliar things to a more familiar kind of light for them. Talk about past successes, things that they've done the past years that were scary and kind of anxiety related. And remember how you weren't sure about going into that new sports group. Well, you went and you had a really great time and you met some new friends. So just the things that were kind of challenging before but worked for them, just remind them of that and that things did work out. And then really the things that they're looking forward to, like we always know maybe in 5th grade there's a special field trip. We heard that older brother got to go to the special place, so we're excited to go there. So just remind them that that's going to happen this year. And even though it's a little bit scary to start something new, there's going to be some things that we enjoy about it.
Well, and the teachers do such a great job of, dressing up the classroom.
Yeah.
Just the context gets you excited.
Yeah, even though it's new, it doesn't always have to be scary, and there could be some fun things that come out of it. And we just have to kind of jump and get through the first couple days, and then things are going to feel much more familiar for us.
What's the proper balance of kind of not hovering as a parent, but also maybe giving? I'm just thinking about like the cubby for that kindergartner. I mean, should the parent be like telling the kids where to put stuff, or is that something that they could figure out, or have the teacher deal with that?
It depends on your kid. You have to know your kids and what their limits are, and the things that they can handle without kind of pushing them over the edge. Making sure they have those little coping strategies like you were talking about, maybe a little stimmy ball that they can have in their bag that even though they're afraid to walk into the room right away, once they go through, they can squeeze their stimmy ball a little bit and get to the cubby with the teacher. So just making sure that you give them enough freedom to be able to feel independent. But like Maureen kind of said, it's hard for the parents too. So making sure that you're not overwhelming a little bit.
For many kids that are that you're dealing with here, they are socialized with other children, right? And so it's not going to be the first time that they're into that group setting, right? By kindergarten or first grade or whatever.
Probably not. I think a lot of parents anymore do a great job of getting kids into lots of community activities and doing lots of group things so that they're used to being around other children and peers too.
What about, when a kid is having a little distress or wants to ask for help? I totally can relate to this. When I was in kindergarten, never knew how to approach the teacher, was intimidated. What's a way to express your discomfort or that something's not going right for you?
So maybe just talking to your child about maybe identifying a peer or another individual in the building that they might know to be like a safe person. Like that the principal's always there and he's a safe person that you've met before. So just let him know what you're thinking. Maybe you can explain to them kind of what your triggers are, what things make you bothered. When you're clasping your hands, you might need to have someone help you to take a little break, and explaining to that safe peer kind of what you need in a certain situation might really help someone around you to know when you might need some help. And
it's like your friends
Sometimes friends can do it
they
too.
could help you, really can.
If you have a friend that you trust and that you feel like they can understand and empathize with what you're going through, and just say to them, hey, when I'm taking my deep breaths, tell me I got to go out in the hallway for a minute. Like, just let me know, when I'm doing that thing before I really fall apart.
That's amazing. Again, preparing our kids is important. We also have to prepare the team that's surrounding our kids. And so, Dr. Barber Carey, let's talk about the partnership with the school itself, and how do you approach a teacher or a principal and so on? Again, you don't want to be the parent that's so overbearing that they have you pegged when you're coming.
For sure. I think what you need to do is say to the principal, I'm just here to support you and to help it be a very, very successful year for you and for my child. I think that I could share some things about him or her that will be such that you will find them, or the teacher will find them, really helpful. And I'm here to support you. Be very, very positive. Be enthusiastic about your child coming to this school and to this classroom teacher. And I find that if you present yourself in a positive manner, that you're here just to help, that I've always gotten really positive responses back from administration as well as teachers.
Is it helpful to maybe even do like a one sheet about my child, just kind of some bullet points for the teacher?
Yes. I think I found that very helpful. And I think most administrators or teachers would also appreciate that, because let's be, certainly the parent knows his or her child the best. And so if they can say, well, if you can reinforce my child by giving him a pat on the back, or, my child gets very nervous in these kinds of situations, but you can help him be more relaxed by just going up to him and talking to him about what's going to come next. So I would really encourage parents to put together that list of, these are the great things that my child can do. These are some of his challenges. And these are some suggestions I might give you as you work with him.
Some children need accommodations and things, and again, they have maybe an individualized, lesson plan or something like that. Talk about how you can get to clarity with the educators that are teaching your kids.
Well, I think the best way is through honesty.
Okay.
By just saying, this is my child. these are the great things he can do, but he really needs help on some of these things. Or these are some behaviors that are challenging for him. And I want to be here to help you. And I have, to say whether the child is also involved in some wraparound services, bring those wraparound people, that team to the school so they can also support what's happening in the regular ed environment. Many children have IEPs and they're in regular education. It's just a question of getting the whole team together so you're on the same page.
I would imagine that open communication is so key, and it really, on the parents' part, that humility of saying, okay, I'm entrusting my child for 6 hours a day, and so it's going to be incumbent upon me not to kind of fly off the handle if something goes awry, right?
Sure. You as a parent have to be calm. And now your child is probably with 15, 20, 25 other children. And things happen. Sometimes a child falls on the playground, or some child might be bumped and falls down. Accidents do happen. And, I think, again, you say open communication. For the school to call and say, oh, there was an accident today. Your child bumped on something, fell down. He's doing fine. We had the nurse check him out. You don't need to worry. I think the parent then is reassured, and the administrator or the teacher has been open with the parent, so they know they don't have anything to worry about. Your child's being in a very safe environment at his school.
There's a recommendation of touring the school. What are you looking for in? Do things have to be brought up to the principal or to the building superintendent?
Sure. There may be an accommodation that needs to be made.
Okay.
If your child can take steps, but it's hard to do two or three stairwells, there may be a need to make an accommodation that the child would need to take the elevator in the school so that he can avoid that. But a walkthrough is for the parent, the child, so the child knows the school, as well as for the administrative staff and the teacher to be able to meet and greet your son or daughter and to know, again, what accommodations might need to be made.
Let's bring this plane in for a landing on this incredible back-to-school edition of Celebrating What's Different. Maria, the idea of what your child brings in, maybe that helps them, the backpack, you said the fidget, or or maybe the structure of the schedule, they need to know that they're not alone, that they have a support group around them, don't they? Yeah.
I think talking to your child about the fact that everyone is starting the same school year, they're all a little scared, they're all a little nervous, they're all in the same boat. Even though the guy over there doesn't look like it, he might just be having just a hard time as you are. So other kids might have the same kind of needs and adaptions and things like that. So everyone's in the same boat, and by the couple days or couple weeks, you're going to all feel a lot better.
Give some encouragement for parents, especially. Do you think?
It's scary as a parent to let your kids go and do this, but it's amazing to see how successful they can be and the gains they can make and the friends that they're going to make and the good things that are going to happen when we're able to kind of let them go and take the skills that we've helped them to learn, because the parents really have helped them to learn these skills that have let them start to do this next journey in their path. So the teachers have brought them there, and they can keep going with it.
Beautiful. We'll leave it there. Dr. Maureen Barber Carey and Maria Brown from the Barber National Institute. Another Celebrate What's Different. Let's go back to school this year with confidence. Thank you, ladies, so much.
Thank you very much.
You got it. Here it is, 7 minutes in front of 4.